Two Hollywood giants, Frank Sinatra and Marlon Brando, shared the spotlight in Guys and Dolls, yet their rivalry ran so deep that close friends feared it could end in violence. Behind Sinatra's charming smile simmered resentment after he lost on the waterfront to Brando. The slight felt worse still when Brando won the lead role in Guys and Dolls that Sinatra had wanted most. As rumors spread that Sinatra's anger nearly crossed a deadly line, the set turned into a war zone of egos, jealousy, and open contempt. But how did this feud push both men to the brink, and what did Sinatra finally reveal before he died that changed everything we thought we knew? In 1954, Frank Sinatra watched as Marlon Brando won the Academy Award for Best Actor for On the Waterfront. Sinatra had fought to land the role of Terry Malloy. Studio memos and trade announcements show Sinatra was in active talks with Columbia Pictures for the part. But director Elia Kazan and producer Sam Spiegel chose Brando, seeking the raw, working-class edge that the new Method star delivered. Sinatra, fresh off his own Oscar win for From Here to Eternity, felt the rejection deeply. In his later words, the decision left him feeling not just overlooked, but humiliated in front of an industry he believed he had conquered. By the time Samuel Goldwyn began assembling the cast for Guys and Dolls, the sting of that loss had not faded. Sinatra set his sights on the role of Sky Masterson, the romantic lead, a part he believed would restore his standing at the top of Hollywood. Goldwyn's casting files confirmed Sinatra's interest, but after Brando's triumph in On the Waterfront, the producer saw greater box office potential with Brando as Sky. Sinatra was instead assigned Nathan Detroit, a colorful but secondary part. Variety reported Sinatra was not entirely satisfied, and those close to him recalled his frustration at being passed over again. For a man who built his career as a headliner, the message was clear. Brando was now the industry favorite. The resentment that took root here would shape every moment they shared on set. On the Guys and Dolls set, every workday became a contest between two stubborn men. Marlon Brando, trained at the Actors Studio, wanted to explore every scene, sometimes demanding a dozen takes to find the right emotion. Frank Sinatra, proud of his reputation as a one-take performer, found the process wasteful and humiliating. Early in production, Sinatra cut through the tension with a sharp warning, "Don't give me any of that Actors Studio shit." The line echoed through the soundstage, and everyone understood there would be no middle ground. Brando's approach unsettled Sinatra. Crew members recalled Sinatra pacing, fuming as Brando paused between takes, searching for new ways to play a line. Sinatra, who valued rhythm and precision, saw it as a lack of discipline. Brando, meanwhile, found Sinatra's impatience almost comical and began to needle him with subtle improvisations, sometimes mumbling lines or shifting his delivery just enough to force another take. Sinatra responded by calling Brando Mumbles, a nickname that stuck with the crew. He dismissed Brando as the world's most overrated actor, making no secret of his contempt. The atmosphere grew more poisonous by the week. Cast and crew quietly chose sides. Some gravitated toward Sinatra's old-school professionalism. Others admired Brando's willingness to experiment. Communication between the two stars broke down so completely that messages were often relayed through assistants. What began as a clash of acting styles had turned into open mockery and personal attacks, with the entire production caught in the crossfire. Tension on the Guys and Dolls set boiled over during the now legendary cheesecake scene. The script called for Sinatra's character Nathan Detroit to eat a slice of cheesecake at the center of the table. What most people did not know is that Sinatra despised cheesecake. Crew members later recalled that even the smell made him queasy. As the cameras rolled, Brando began deliberately stumbling through his lines, mumbling or pausing long enough to ruin each take. Each time, Sinatra had to pick up his fork and choke down another bite. By the 7th or 8th take, Sinatra's face was flushed, his jaw clenched, and his patience gone. Witnesses described the air in the studio as electric, everyone waiting to see if Sinatra would finally snap. Brando, cool and unfazed, flashed a sly grin after another botched line, pushing Sinatra closer to the edge. When the director finally called cut, Sinatra slammed his fork down and stormed off set, hurling curses in Brando's direction. Crew members and extras later said they genuinely feared a fight would break out. One assistant remembered Sinatra muttering that if Brando had not been the star, he would have knocked him flat. The cheesecake incident did not end with laughter. It left the entire production on high alert, convinced that the feud had crossed from petty rivalry into something far more dangerous. Rumors spread quickly through the studio after the cheesecake blow-up, but the fear that gripped the set ran deeper than gossip. Stories circulated that Ava Gardner, Sinatra's estranged wife, had been seen in Brando's dressing room. For Sinatra, already wounded by losing leading roles, this felt like a public embarrassment that stung in front of cast and crew. The humiliation fed a new level of anger, and close friends began to worry the feud might cross a line. Late one night, Brando's friend Carlo Fiore said that Brando was forced off his motorcycle and into a car by 3 armed men. Fiore said the men threatened to kill Brando, or else mutilate his face so badly no surgeon could fix it. Brando, shaken, suspected the men were connected to Sinatra's underworld associates. He never made a public accusation, and no police report or studio record ever confirmed the story. Fiore's later account remains the only source, but the rumor was enough to rattle everyone involved. After that incident, Brando quietly hired a bodyguard for the remainder of the shoot. Extras and crew noticed the change immediately. Security became a visible presence, and the atmosphere on set grew tense. Even small arguments seemed to carry the threat of something worse. Sinatra's reputation for violence was well known by then, fed by years of public fights with journalists and by stories of mob connections. Many believed he was capable of anything if he felt disrespected. The production limped toward completion, with everyone watching their backs, convinced the danger was no longer just part of the script. After Guys and Dolls wrapped, the rivalry between Frank Sinatra and Marlon Brando did not fade. It moved off the soundstage and into Hollywood legend. Years later, Mario Puzo's novel The Godfather introduced the world to Johnny Fontane, a crooner with mob ties many recognized as a thinly veiled Sinatra caricature. Sinatra's fury boiled over when he confronted Puzo at Chasen's restaurant, calling him a pimp and threatening him over the character. Brando once again landed the role that would define an era, Vito Corleone, while Sinatra, despite rumors he wanted the part, watched from the sidelines. Brando's Oscar win for The Godfather reopened old wounds, proving that the Cold War between these two giants was far from over. In the last years of his life, Frank Sinatra finally spoke with a candor he had avoided for decades. In interviews and private conversations, he did not hide the bitterness that lingered from his feud with Marlon Brando. Sinatra admitted, "I never hated anyone in Hollywood more than Brando." He described how the rivalry consumed him, confessing, "Brando brought out the worst in me. I wanted to hit him more than once. He played with me psychologically, and I let it get personal." Friends later recalled Sinatra's regret, saying he held on to that anger far longer than he should have. Even as he mocked Brando's acting style in public, Sinatra privately acknowledged the toll the feud had taken on his own peace of mind. The wounds never fully healed, and the resentment remained, a shadow that followed him long after the cameras stopped rolling. In Hollywood, unchecked ego and power still collide, often off-camera. The Sinatra and Brando feud shows that pride and resentment can turn art into danger when no one sets limits. Today, celebrity clashes may look different, but the stakes for reputation and control remain just as real. What do you think?